Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the DLF Trade Show. A great, amazing, wonderful, beautiful man sitting next to me in Addison Hayes to record the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. And I think we started this out last week, and I'm going to start it out this week. I'm going to start it out next week. It's trade deadline season. If you have one of those, I'm going to try my best to just hold it in.
Do we need to have a conversation about it again? We had one last year, but I'm sure we might have new people, and I know you always want to talk about it. Do we need to have a conversation about it?
I don't have in Russ's inbox this week because the only trades I've gotten in the past 2 days have been trash. So if you want to do that instead, we could do it, but you're going to need to cut me off at some point.
All right, we can do it. We can do it after the show.
We'll save it for the end for sure, because then we'll both have to go to work, and there'll be something that absolutely says like, all right, no, man, I got to go, because otherwise I can ramble on this one for a very long time. But we are not talking about that yet. We are talking about what are we talking about? We are talking about, I'm trying to find a fun way to say it, and I got nothing. So we're talking about players that are coming back, whether it's from suspension or it's from injury or it's from just those two things. Just those two things. So the first one is the obvious one. We've been waiting 2 years for this one to pretty much happen. Deshaun Watson practiced this past week. I mean, I haven't seen anything that actually just said Deshaun Watson is the starter. Just putting it out there.
Oh, that is true. I guess you are correct in that regard.
And Jacoby Brissett hasn't been terrible. Like, if the Browns are doing well, do you just let Watson get reestablished into football routine before just dropping him on the field where he's only practiced for a week in the past 2.5 years? But regardless, the value is going to be affected by the fact that he is able to come back. And I guess that's really what's important. And that's why we want to talk about it right now, because there's a couple of trains of thought when it comes to players that are either coming back from suspension or injury. And it's, what do you think is going to happen when they get back on the field? Because that will affect their value. Do you want to trade them away or trade for them before they step on the field? Or do you want to let them get on the field, play a game or two, so people can see or remember what they were or what you think they can be? It's a dangerous game, either way, both ways, because, I mean, if they're good or if they're bad, it absolutely affects the value. Did you see anything? I saw you went looking up. Did you see anything about them naming him the starter?
There are reports and stuff saying that it seems like it's nothing that's really come out from the team itself saying that he's officially the starter, but it's like, the stadium has already put up banners with him up there, and he's joining practice and running with the ones and all that kind of
practicing with the ones. Yeah, it's
just
the wonderful code we get these days. All right, so let's get to the first trade, which is the 12-team Superflex League, and it is Deshaun Watson, 2 late 23 seconds, and Isaiah Likely for Derrick Henry and Mike Evans. Deshaun Watson, 571. The seconds are 96. Isaiah Likely, 35, for a total of 798. Derrick Henry and Mike Evans, total of 628. Caution, Team A is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal. I think we're going to see this on pretty much every Deshaun Watson trade, because it looks like the analyzer is just ready to be in on Watson. Here's the thing. If you were one of those people that traded for Deshaun Watson on one of those dips in his value, and clearly he hasn't been scoring you points, which means if you're competing, you've had 2 quarterbacks scoring you points already. And if they're still if you have Kirk Cousins or above, I love this trade. If you have 2 QBs that are scoring you a lot of points, they're both top 13, 14 quarterbacks. Yes, the ceiling of Deshaun Watson is a top 3 quarterback, but adding Derrick Henry and Mike Evans to your lineups without sacrificing a starter, that helps you win a championship. And especially me, like I said all before, on having him on my team in the first place. But honestly, I think value-wise, this probably should be the Watson side. But I would still easily, as a competing team, do this. And not just with Watson, with any third quarterback at this point. Well, I'm Dynasty Outhouse and I have a trading problem. I hate having depth on my team. So if I have a third quarterback who can score points for someone else and I could really upgrade other spots on my team, like this trade, I think I do that. And, Derrick Henry is the way to do it. Despite his age, despite not having stellar past few games, he has the best schedule going forward. Also, throughout the playoffs.
Yes, he does.
I am absolutely a fan of this move. However, opposite side, yeah, it's the right move. That if you were one of those middling teams, you're like, you know what? Not going to make the playoffs. I tried. Let me get rid of these two. Yeah, this is what you do. You go for a player with massive upside that has the ability to just skyrocket in value. And getting 2 seconds ain't bad. And I mean, likely seem to be a decent tight end handcuff if that's a thing. So I get it.
Yeah. In general, in Superflex leagues, I'm always, if there's a trade where there is one QB1 being traded and nothing's on the other side, like not even a quarterback on the other side.
That's rough. Yeah.
It's really tough to see. And I'm almost always going to pick the side with the quarterback because, it's Superflex, especially a high level value quarterback like Deshaun Watson. And like you said, the upside production wise is top 5, top 3. We've seen the upside there, and he's going to be on the best overall team he's ever been on in his entire career. So the thinking is that he could just elevate that, with Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell.
Bell, baby. Let's go. It's time.
The running game. So yeah, this one, I'm just going to take Watson here. I understand like what you were saying, the thought process behind if Watson is your QB3 kind of thing. You bought low on Tua and he's been ascending. You bought low on Justin Fields, he's been ascending. And you have some other like Lamar or Herbert or something like that. And you just kind of have these kind of quarterbacks in that specific situation, trying to move one of them to upgrade other positions elsewhere in your starting lineup, because you can only start 2 of those 3 quarterbacks that you have. I get trying to do this. I just don't know if Derrick Henry and Mike Evans is the combo that I'm looking for. I'd prefer, what if it was like Henry and Chris Godwin? I think could be even better. At least he's like 3-4 years younger than Mike.
I was about to say the age is a lot to take on.
Right. That's the main issue for me.
Just in case anyone out there doesn't know, Derrick Henry 28, Mike Evans 29. Their value's never going up.
So I would ideally like to not acquire 2 players who combined ages almost 40, almost 40, or almost 60. I mean, sorry.
Try that again.
Bad math. It's still early in the morning. Almost 60. So I would like to get something closer to 50, or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But
no, you're right. Like the age is a lot to take on, because if you don't win, you're going to take a big value hit in all of this.
Yes.
Of course, I still think Henry and Evans play next year, and they still play as well as they are right now. But the dynasty value is just going to go down because of that age.
Yeah, absolutely.
This next one, we see it on the other side. The trade is Deshaun Watson for CeeDee Lamb and DeAndre Swift. Watson at 571, CeeDee at 642. Love it. DeAndre Swift 515. Still a little high to me. For a total of 1157. So Deshaun Watson, caution, Team B is giving up the highest value asset and the most pieces in the deal. I mean, let's take a step back. Watson versus CeeDee, because this is saying that the answer is Lamb.
Yeah, which I find actually kind of to be interesting, but I think I take Watson because quarterback in Superflex, and also I think he can grow. I like CeeDee Lamb. No matter what he does, probably for the rest of his career, will never be wide receiver 1 or 2 in Dynasty.
He needs to put up like a Cooper Kupp season, and
at
maybe
minimum,
and then he'll be wide receiver 3.
Right, we're like he's like in the wide receiver 3 tier with a couple other guys, and like he's not even solidified wide receiver 3. And so he needs to have a massive breakout just to be wide receiver 3, and then do things that Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase can't do, which seems like that's impossible because they can do everything. So, but Deshaun Watson, if you're looking at his ADP from November, this is just one quarterback, but he was QB 10 in November ADP, and I honestly think that he could grow to being a borderline top 5 quarterback. Like I could see him bumping over Dak Prescott because he's a little bit younger, maybe shinier new toy kind of thing. I could see him bumping over Tua just because we have more. Well, there's that, but Watson was the higher valued, I think, prospect coming in. He has a bigger body of work, and it seems like his production is much more based on his overall talent rather than situation. That's at least the argument right now. I can see him bumping over Kyler because it's Kyler, and he's just kind of frustrating right now. Then you get to, Lamar and Joe Burrow, and now you're in the top 5 range. So I think Watson can grow, whereas I don't think Lamb can grow. So I think that's kind of how I feel about that. But then you have Swift.
It's funny how much we're talking about just those 2 players and completely ignoring that while he's not doing well, it's still DeAndre Swift on top of CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
Like maybe they just don't want to bother hurting him on a season where it doesn't matter, so they're just not overplaying him. Maybe he's bad. I don't know. I mean, I've been on the sell DeAndre Swift bandwagon for like a year and a half because it never seems to live up to what we want him to be, in which case his value will stay up there because we still want it, but it's just it isn't happening. And now with Jamal Williams just like being Mr. Touchdown, completely capping Swift's upside, but still, like, he's almost treated as nothing in this trade.
So I saw Curtis Patrick put out a tweet, I think this was maybe a week or 2 ago, basically outlining everything that DeAndre Swift is currently giving us for fantasy and what his situation presents. And he said he is basically Antonio Gibson. Like, that's...
I don't even think he's that good.
Like, he
fantasy-wise, like talent-wise, I think he's a better running back than Gibson, but like he's... Sorry, keep going.
I'm totally like... I want to say that they're still working him back from injury, but it just seems like he's been healthy and they're just not giving him work. So it's kind of frustrating. But if you want to say that he should be valued as Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson in the trade analyzer is 145 points. So you knock almost 400 points off of this, and that is a much closer trade than what the analyzer suggests is basically double Deshaun Watson and now becomes 25% greater. So
yeah, and I mean, just to put it out there, Swift and Antonio Gibson are also putting out insanely similar points per game.
Because it's just all you're banking on them utilizing their talent to supersede the low volume that they're getting,
the situation that they're in,
especially in the receiving game too. So you're hoping that one of them breaks off like a 30 or 40 yard touchdown, or they convert on that one inside the 10 touch they get before they go back to their pounder.
Exactly. So the next player we're going to talk about is a player coming back from injury, not a player coming back from suspension, and that is Jameson Williams. I know we had an original blurb come out that he was ready to come back like 3-4 weeks ago, and we talked about him then, but it's real now. Like, he's practicing, like, we're here, it's time. And this is one of those very big, I say very big, but Deshaun Watson is obviously like the ceiling of one of those decisions where the second he steps on the field, values can change a lot. Like, if he steps on the field and he pulls Jahan Dotson for week 1, or Christian Watson 2 weeks ago, and like scores multiple touchdowns and catches a couple of deep passes or something, I knew it. This is what we thought Jameson Williams was going to be. I paid the 104 for him. He's worth the 101. Like, I mean, that's what's going to happen. So maybe buying now is worth it. Maybe waiting for that to happen is worth it. I honestly have no idea. I have my just in case share of Jameson Williams, so I'm holding on to it unless something crazy comes my way. But let's see these trades that happened over here. In a 12-team Superflex league, we have Jameson Williams and Cam Akers for Garrett Wilson and Travis Homer. What? Okay, Jameson Williams 224, Cam Akers 65 for a total of 289, Garrett Wilson 428.5, Travis Homer. I'm glad his name's in the analyzer.
Yeah, with an image too.
Yeah,
He's got his own player.
No numbers. No numbers. He is worth 0. I mean, this is so easily Garrett Wilson to me. Like, Garrett Wilson is the known. Garrett Wilson does well regardless of the quarterback. He's done well with Flacco. He's done well with Wilson. And
He has
he's
not done well, Wilson. I will not. That one's not true.
okay. He didn't do well the entire time, but there was like 2 games when Wilson was like in the middle, like after he got the rust off and before he just got really bad. Like there was a 2-3 game span in there where
he was
all right. He was all right. He was
Wilson's better without Zach Wilson.
He was getting a lot of targets. Can I just leave it at that? Because that makes me feel a lot safer in that statement. Sure. From Zach Wilson, and he did well with Mike. I mean, Mike White's the MVP, so yeah, of course. Cam Akers isn't going to be a thing. Like I'm fine saying that. In which case, 65 is the right value. I mean, this trade is hoping that Jameson Williams becomes better than Garrett Wilson and probably fast. And that's a heavy bet for me. So like to me, this is easily Garrett Wilson. Like I don't understand the point of this swap.
Garrett Wilson has been beating Jameson Williams since their first day together in college. So nothing's going to change now. Yeah. This one was perfect. I saw this was recent. This was done a few days ago, and I was like, man, talk about selling high on Jameson Williams and going to get an asset in Garrett Wilson, who I think might be a little undervalued right now by the community, even though he's still
not. Okay, let me just say, not in my leagues, because I tried to get him for undervalued prices, and I got shot down bad.
Well, I think undervalued. Like if people are valuing him as a top 15 asset, I still think that's kind of undervalued. Like I think he needs to be.
Player or wide receiver?
Wide receiver. Like top 15 wide receiver. I think that's undervalued still. If he's not borderline top. Actually,
I am in the DLF mock for ADP for December. Didn't offer to be in it. I just got an email that said I'm in it. So I'm like, okay, sure. One quarterback. Where do you think Garrett Wilson got drafted?
Second round.
How early in the second round?
Oh no! How early? 207. 201.
Pick 13.
So I was correct when saying that he should be a top 15 Dynasty asset. Yeah. Holy, what wide receiver is that?
All right, let's talk about the wide receivers because this is important for me.
And because T. Higgins got taken a pick right before you.
Right before me in the second round, so it was my fault. I played the dangerous game of he'll definitely fall. So here's the fun. Jefferson and Chase went 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Walker 3.
RB1 Ken Walker.
RB1 Ken Walker. Number 4 was Jonathan Taylor. But let's talk about wide receivers because that's what we're doing. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown. I took Chris Olave at 10. Then Garrett Wilson at 13. T. Higgins at 14. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 15, Tyreek Hill at 18, and Stephon Diggs at the 208 at pick 20. That's where we are so far.
So Garrett Wilson is that 6 or 7?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7. Wow. So they're not. Or maybe at least whoever drafted that Garrett Wilson is not undervaluing Garrett Wilson. But I think that's where right around where he kind of needs to be.
Yeah, they didn't put their name in there, so it's just franchise 3. Honestly, like if it's me, we're talking, and I don't do rankings because they're hard and make my brain hurt. I would put T. Higgins, St. Brown, Hill, and Diggs above Garrett Wilson. I mean, I get the age is a real big swing between Hill and Diggs. They're just doing way too well, and there's no reason for that to stop next year. And that's kind of as far as I care about. So, but even still, if we're talking Garrett Wilson at wide receiver 10 or 12, it's great. Okay, so let's move on to the next trade, where it is a 12-team, 1-quarterback league where someone traded Javonte Williams for Jameson Williams and TJ Hawkinson. I love this trade. So Javonte is 430. Jameson Williams, 343, and TJ Hawkinson, 242, total of 585. So the value is on the 2 players as opposed to overpaying for the 1. But even still, if I had Javonte Williams on one team and got super lucky in a situation where there was a team who just got crushed by injuries, but still happened to have Christian McCaffrey on their team. And they're like, I need these good players off my team. So I just sent Javonte for Christian McCaffrey. And they said yes. That's not normal, but I was happy to get it. But if I have Javonte Williams sitting on my bench doing nothing, and if you're telling me I can get TJ Hawkinson, who has been doing really well in Minnesota, especially if there's any sort of tight end premium, and then the upside of Jameson Williams, I'm here for that so easily, because I am scared of Javonte Williams' knees. I am scared of the Broncos' offense. That is enough for me to move on. That is enough for me to go for 2 players like this easily.
Yeah. I like this one a lot. I'm taking Jameson Williams and TJ Hawkinson here because I think Javonte and Jameson are close enough in value to where, like, 1 for 1, it's kind of like, which lottery ticket would you rather play? Would you rather
I feel like I would be surprised when I first saw it, because it would feel like selling a little low on Javonte, but then I'd be like, well, no, that's fine. Yeah, I get it.
I mean, would you rather go for the soon-to-be 23-year-old running back coming off a major knee injury, who we had hope for, but we'll see how that goes? Or would you rather go with the 21, soon-to-be 22-year-old wide receiver who has like 4.25 speed, also coming off of a major knee injury? So it's like, which lottery ticket are you going for? But since TJ Hawkinson's attached to Jameson Williams, then I would take the Jameson Williams side. But I feel like on the opposite, if Hawkinson was with Javonte, I'd take that side too. So it's one of those trades where it's like player plus a second equals other player, and I'd be like, yeah, whichever side had the second, I'm just taking that side.
Just because, no, honestly, like, I just don't want to pick. I learned my lesson on Dobbins. I don't think I'm buying into Javonte at this point, unless it is insanely in my favor, which I guess maybe Jameson Williams for Javonte and Hawkinson is kind of pretty strongly in favor, but I don't know. I'm glad I'm not confronted with the situation.
Just take Jameson Williams and TJ Hawkinson, and we'll be good.
Yeah, there we go. And the next player we have came back from injury, but we already had a plan to talk last week about something else, so we're talking about him now, and that is Marquise Hollywood Brown. He came back. He looks good. Okay, so we have 12-team, 1 quarterback. It's a little rough this week because they have their bye. So if you're in a trade deadline league, trading for him now feels, unless you're solidly in the playoffs, like you have that bye locked up, then trading for him right now is great because someone else will want points. So you might be able to get a little bit of a discount by, helping someone else score points and you getting Marquise. Because if you're telling me I can trade a 24 first and a 24 second and get Hollywood Brown and Antonio Gibson, I would do that all day. Even if I'm not competing, I might do that. Marquise Brown right now is 25, so he'll be 26 next year, which is still 1 year before people start thinking he died. And Antonio Gibson, again, it's really rough with these players that don't make it to what we hoped they would be. It forever stains their value. He's scoring pretty well. Like, he's not doing bad at all. 13 points per game, 13.7 points per game to be exact, because I did just look it up before, is nothing to, lift your nose at. That is solid RB2. And that has a place in most leagues. So for a 24 first and second, without even thinking, I take the players on this.
I agree. I'm also taking the players. I think it's kind of telling in the first week back, Hollywood out-targeted 8 targets.
8 targets,
and out-targeted DeAndre Hopkins as well. Hopkins got the touchdown, so for fantasy that looks nicer. But Hollywood out-targeted Hopkins, and the final piece of this puzzle will be what happens whenever the offense gets Rondale Moore back, because we haven't seen all 3 of them play at the same time. So we saw Hollywood had a fantastic beginning to the season. And then Rondale started picking up a lot of steam because he was getting heavily targeted. And that lasted between Hollywood and DeAndre Hopkins. And then now Rondale's hurt. But Hollywood's back. It's been a weird carousel for Cardinals receivers. But I'm interested to see what it looks like when all three of them come back. Because Robbie Anderson was the next targeted wide receiver. He only had 3 targets.
Oh, he played.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice.
He played. He had 3 targets. So.
That's such a disappointment. Like I thought he'd be okay over there at least, and he's been an insane non-factor.
Yeah, I love Hollywood Brown. I'm taking him over the 24 first, and I'm taking Antonio Gibson over the 24 second. So both sides here.
Yeah.
I love this trade.
Real quick before we get on to the next trade, I thought of what I wish I thought of at the beginning of the show when I couldn't think of how to intro into this. When I say, welcome back to the DLF trade show, don't call it a comeback. We've been here all along, but to talk about some guys who are coming back.
Oh, I'll copy that in at the beginning.
No. I don't deserve the credit for it seeming like a good thought at the time, because it's one of those things where you're in an argument and then you walk away and then you think of the amazing comeback that would have put them in their place, but you're home already, so the argument's over. It doesn't matter. All right, the next trade, because I need to distract myself from the sadness, is Marquise Brown for Alvin Kamara. Now, the analyzer has Marquise at 366 and Alvin Kamara at 423. But I gotta be honest, I think I'm just done with Kamara. He's not scoring the way we think he is or needs to. That offense is getting worse. Mm-hmm. And the opposite of all of that for Hollywood. So why buy a 27-year-old running back who, again, we can't forget, might be getting suspended next year? So sending a 25-year-old wide receiver who's about to start scoring points, it seems like a bad idea, because there's no reason you buy Kamara on a rebuilding team right now. So there's this has to be a point scoring move. And even if you have a league where you need to start 2 running backs and your second RB got hurt and you need an RB to fill that spot, I don't think this is the way you do it.
This is I saw this trade. I was like, man, this is so beautiful, because I feel like for a lot of people out there, they will look at this trade and they'll be like, oh, I would love to get Alvin Kamara or put an RB1 on my team. All I got to do is give up Hollywood Brown. And that is the exact reason why I would love to do this trade in the reverse, because Alvin Kamara still has name value. The production hasn't been there necessarily. He plays Tampa this week. You were talking about buys earlier for Hollywood. On buy next week, Alvin Kamara. So he's not helping you for the next 2 weeks to get into the playoffs.
And he has a pretty
fantastic schedule at the beginning.
Falcons, Browns, Eagles is not a bad playoff.
He's got a great playoff schedule, but if you need a player to help you get into the playoffs, Alvin Kamara is not doing that.
Look, so week 8, he put up that 43 points. Since then, 9, 7, 13, 7.
It's been horrible.
Yeah. The only positive thing you could say is in last week in PPR leagues, he got 7 targets. That's nice. He still scored 7 total points.
Yeah.
2 catches, 6 catches for 37 yards.
Yeah.
Wait, that math doesn't add. He must have fumbled the ball. And 7 rushes for 13 yards.
This is a beautiful trade. If you are a contending team, if you're in first, second, third place, and you have Alvin Kamara, I would love to make this move and go find another competing team who had Hollywood. He fumbled twice? That's some Melvin Gordon type stuff, bro.
Just don't go blasting the music of a guy who slept with your wife before you were married so you don't get cut.
Uh-oh.
That's what that was one thing I read about what happened that got Melvin Gordon cut. He went into the locker room blasting Future, and Russ Wilson went in and said, you got to cut him.
Dang, Russ is that hateful about Future music? Oh, okay.
Did you put it all together?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, if you're competing and you have Alvin Kamara, trade him and go get Hollywood, because Hollywood's going to help you compete just as much this year and is going to look a lot nicer on your roster next year, year after that, year after that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really, I don't need to keep going after that. All right. I'm going to make this as quick as I possibly can because we have been going a little longer than I thought we would anyway. My feeling on trade deadlines. Why stop fun? I mean, that's really my biggest thing. And I've never heard a pro deadline argument. It's always anti no deadline. This can go wrong. This can go wrong. This can go wrong. Okay, get less crappy people in your league.
Yeah.
There are no real arguments I've heard that are, this is why I like having a deadline. It is always, this is why I don't like there being no deadline. There are purists. I get it. What is it? You dance with the girl you brought there or something like that. It's like, so cool. So don't trade. You don't have to, but everyone else can. All right, that's on you. Mm-hmm. And oh well, why should they be rewarded for having all of their picks and all of these extra players that they could trade away? It's because they built a better team, and that's literally what we're rewarding: the best team. You can do it too. Like, I have never. Okay, and I'm going to take this even a bigger step. Forget trade deadline talk. No trade destroys a league. Period. End of sentence. So if you're worried about someone selling out their future to try and win this year and then losing and then them leaving, again, cool. You got rid of a crappy player.
I was going to say, you didn't want that player anyway.
And in the world of Twitter, it is not hard to find replacements for people anymore. If you are in a league and you do have problems finding replacements, DM me, tag me in a tweet. I will retweet it. I will put it in group chats. I will help you find replacements because anything is better than playing in crappy leagues. You shouldn't have to, especially if you're running the league and there's crappy people in it, let them leave, tell them to leave. Yeah, that's awkward. I know, but still, again, every single thing comes down to, it's the same thing with tanking. It comes down to a people problem, not a rule problem. And if someone has one, please comment, DM, whatever. Let me know your argument for pro trade deadline. Besides, you should just win with the players you have and not make the trade for whoever's going to win you that week. But also, how good are we at predicting who's going to win that week? How often do you make a trade for a week and it does not work? So often. Not only are you stopping people from what you think winning, you're stopping people from making the wrong decision and maybe helping you win. Because there will be people like me who have too many things on their team and they're like, well, I can upgrade my team. You might as well. This guy has a really good matchup. Let me go trade for him. And then he scores 4 points. I'm not speaking from experience at all. No, I don't still cry about it at night. I don't. I mean, who would? I mean, absolutely. I think we're giving ourselves too much credit for what we think having no trade deadline will do. I mean, I have the Trade Addicts leagues. We have 10 of them now. They've been going, some of them have been going for 4 or 5 years now. Once, and it was in the first or second year, was there any time where trading in the playoffs swung the playoffs? Once. Out of 10 leagues, 4 or 5 years, that's a lot of playoffs. And it just so happens this person bought the right people and the other person didn't have anything to trade. Why would you stop people from wanting to pay attention? Why would you stop people from wanting to be able to trade? Why would you punish bad teams who might have RB handcuffs on their team? And it's really, really funny. I told the story on Trade Addicts last night, and this will be the last thing I do because, like I said, I was going to try and keep it short, but I also told you you'd have to tell me to shut up at some point. 2017-ish, I'm in a league with a trade deadline because I mistakenly let my friend create the league instead of me. And Melvin Gordon was just on the then San Diego Chargers. I could actually say it, purposely instead of by accident, and crushing it. And then in week 15, he gets hurt. and I have this no name named Austin Eckler on my team, and I can't trade him away now because the trade deadline passed, and he's not going to be worth anything once the offseason hits. So I raise hell. Of course, thankfully, I couldn't trade Austin Eckler for a second because he's Austin Eckler now.
Austin Eckler.
But I mean, it's just the truth when you think about it. Like, you are stopping bad teams from getting better, and that is the point of this. You know, it's always thought of, well, the team that's going to do this can win. The team that's going to do this can win. But you don't forget, they're trading with other people. They're giving other people things. They're making other teams better, which pushes the league towards a middle. Like, you want to help bad teams get better. That's why we do a rookie draft in any way you want to do it. But usually the worst team gets the best pick, you know, because you want the worst teams to get better. And letting them take advantage of the assets they have on their team is the best way to do that. And you are hamstringing them, and I don't like it.
All right, so this is kind of convenient that we're talking about this because literally yesterday, Justin, so if you watch this channel, you know who Justin is, tweeted out last night something to the effect of trade deadlines in Dynasty are stupid. That was basically the whole point of it. And he had, at the time that I was looking at it, like almost 100 replies to it.
I've very much learned not to do that on Twitter.
But so let me hit you. I got like 3 in mind that were basically like constant reasons why you should have a trade deadline, of just like, these are like the main arguments why you should have one. I'm going to hit you with them, and then you're going to give me the counter argument for that. Okay?
Before we do that, I want to say, if I hadn't said it enough, if you want one, play with one. There is no right way to play. Play what makes you happy. That is literally the point of a game. So yes, I am 1000% for no deadline, but that doesn't mean I think you're doing it wrong if you have one. Yes, you are. No, you're not. But still, like, don't think I'm saying you're playing badly because you don't play the way I play. That's why I don't say crap like that, because you don't need to be a jerk about it. But okay, hit me.
So the first main one was the NFL has a trade deadline, so Dynasty League should too.
So we should have offensive and defensive linemen play IDP with 52-man rosters. We don't play football. We're playing fantasy football. There is zero reason. So do you want to have your trade deadline at week 8? No, you don't. Like, no. Any question that is answered with, well, that's how they do it in the NFL, is the wrong answer for fantasy football. There is zero. super flex. So they put, okay, well, now they kind of sometimes do put 2 QBs on the field at the same time. But, you know, like, no, we don't play regular football. We're not going to model it after regular football. There's no.
If you wanted to extend that and say, well, we want to base our league based on how the NFL works. So you would have, like you said, the NFL trade deadline's like in week 8 or week 9 or whatever it is. It's super early. And then the NFL is not allowed to make any trade or acquisitions or signing moves outside of like free agent signings in season until March. So most dynasty leagues are like, all right, trade deadline for the playoffs. And then once the season's over,
second the championship game is over, open.
Now you got to wait 2 more months. If you want it to be like the NFL, you got to wait 2 more months.
I am in a league where February is like a dead zone where they want you to like rest. And I'm like, I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. I hate
They
this.
want you to rest.
Yeah. They're like, go live your life and do this. And I'm like, this is my life.
The second one, which one you kind of already touched on a little bit, was trading during the playoffs. Why should you allow teams to beef up their team during the playoffs? You kind of hit on that one a little bit.
My answer, like, I will. Why not? If they can, why not?
My argument for that is, if you're upset that your opponent made a move, you should have made a move.
Exactly. You can do it too. Oh, you don't have the assets to do it? Think about that next time. It's in the rules. I mean, it's something you knew going in. So that's on you for how you built your team.
And the third one I found was really funny, because I know your answer to this. It should be everybody's answer, but I don't. The third one was, what about the team that's in second place that says, hey, I'll trade you a second for elite NFL player, and then whenever I win, I'll give you a cut of the winnings because you gave me
that. That's
and
cool.
that
is literally the definition of collusion. You kick them out.
Yep. So if your trade deadline is to prevent that from happening,
Let
one,
it
I don't
happen.
think that
Don't pay
let it
them
happen.
out.
No.
Kick them out. Call it a day.
Yep. And I feel like that rarely happens. So
Yeah, like full on like jerkily tanking, full on collusion happens really, really rarely. But we put so many rules in place to try and stop it. And if you're playing with people you absolutely don't know, sure. Like, I get why Safe Leagues has to do stuff like this because there's hundreds and thousands of leagues with hundreds of thousands of people that don't know each other. I super get it.
Thousands of dollars at stake for
Exactly. Super get it because like I don't want to have to sit there and, monitor every single move that happens in all of those leagues. Like, no one should have to do that. I love fantasy football. That sounds like a terrible job. So like, yeah, if that's what you're worried about, you're worried about the people in your league. You shouldn't play with people you worry about.
Oh, and I have one more. The fourth one is it incentivizes trading and deals during the deadline-y kind of time. So it incentivizes activity.
Okay, but if you're worried about people ruining their teams, forcing them to do it early is a chance to ruin it worse. Because if someone buys out for the present, doesn't even make the playoffs, they're going to get angry and either leave or just sell those older players for less the second they can start trading again because they realize the errors of their ways and now they think they need to rebuild. Like, to me, yeah, you're forcing activity is a terrible thing in general because it makes people do stupid things, and you should choose to do stupid things. You shouldn't be made to do stupid things. I mean, listen to the Trade Addicts podcast and you'll hear many of the stupid things I do, and I'm never forced to do it. Okay, cool. So you get 5 trades at the deadline. You'd probably get 8 or 9 throughout the playoffs if that's the case.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
like,
if your league, if you want activity, I feel like the trading during the
letting
playoffs
people do it for longer. That's how you do it. Because you think about it, every single time a team gets eliminated, they have 1 or 2 players that they're going to offer to the existing teams. And honestly, usually there aren't that many trades in the playoffs. Like, people have it in their head that it's a war zone and it's an arms race and it's all these horrible metaphors that scare the crap out of people. Usually it doesn't really happen that often, and especially big trades don't happen. Like, you're not going to see Christian McCaffrey traded in, week 16, 17. Like, it just doesn't usually happen. And like, that's, I think, what everyone's afraid of. If someone selling Christian McCaffrey for a second because, well, they lost and they might as well get what they can. No, people still want to get good value for their trades.
And also, we're playing next year too. It's not like it's a redraft league where it's like at the minute the season ends, everybody's rosters are a clean slate. It's like, nah, they'll try again next year. If their team is still good, they're not trading Christian McCaffrey away, because then they'll try to win next year. So, yeah, I said last night in response to Justin's trade, I also just kind of tweeted out, I was like, I feel like I don't have an opinion on deadlines in Dynasty. It's just a topic that I've just find myself to be in the middle of. Like, I don't care, just do whatever you want. Now join leagues that are whatever they want. But I did say I do believe that of the two sides, the side that has the weakest argument is pro deadline.
Because there are no pro deadline arguments. There are anti no deadline arguments. Mm-hmm. And again, I know I sound emphatic when I say all this stuff, and mostly it's because I am, because Dynasty Ad House, I have a trading problem. I love trading. That's my favorite part of fantasy football. Please give me your argument for pro deadline. I would literally love to hear it. It would make me happy to have a real discussion about it, because I know I sound like a jerk. I'm just like, no, that's not right. But like, honestly, it's just because it's the same argument for the past however long I've been doing this. Like, it's not, almost everything comes down to people. That's really what it is. Or if you play with crappy people, crappy things are going to happen. Or I have like my best freaking friend who I just got into Dynasty like 2-3 years ago, but even when it comes to redraft, he does not change the way he plays. He doesn't change. Like, it was murder to get him to add another flex spot. Ooh, this is how many people we've always started. Why would I do that? Can we get rid of kickers and defense? No. That's how you play fantasy football. No, that's how you play fantasy football. And that's how apparently you will never not play. Like, he is a purist. He likes his game the way he plays it, which to me means he likes that game. He doesn't actually like fantasy football, but that's a completely different conversation altogether. Like, I get it. There are people that like that. And again, I'm not saying you're wrong. It's a game. Be happy. That's the point. But if trading makes you happy, why put a wall there? And I'm going to end this now because, again, like I said before, I can keep going forever. And at some point, I'm just going to be saying the same things over and over again. So, but another episode of the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. Russ Fisher, I am out of breath. Russ Fisher, Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes, @MazeHayes_, and we'll catch you next time.